I can't do it. I just don't have the internet.
Space, the final frontier.
Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk everything about moving to Rapid City and the wonderful things about Rapid City and the Black Hills. So in South Dakota, we do have internet. It's hard to believe, I know, it's the Wild West out here, right? We still have ranchers that go gather their cattle by horseback. So let's talk about your internet options and the speeds in South Dakota. The first thing we need to talk about is making sure that you know what speed you need for whatever you're planning on doing in your home. Now when it comes to the internet speeds, there's two numbers to talk about. One is the download speed. So you download information, you download things from the internet, you check your email, all those things are download. But there's also the upload speed. So if you are chatting via Zoom, you're not only grabbing the information from them and their face, but you're sending the internet your face. So make sure you consider both download and upload speeds for whatever you need to do. So let's take a look at what activities require how much bandwidth. So you can see here at the very bottom end of the chart is 25 megabits per second, which is a very basic speed. And it goes all the way up to 1000 megabytes per second, which is the 1 gig service. There's even some 2 gig services. Do you need the internet just to check email, browse the web, and check out Facebook? 1 to 5 megabytes might be all you need. You love Netflix? You probably need between 5 and 25 megabytes. But if you really want to see some great picture and play some video games, you might want to have 40 to 100 megabytes per second. Add on there downloading very large files as a part of your regular routine, you probably want to be upwards of that 100 in the 200 range plus. Video conference software such as Zoom and Google Meet, they need at least 1 megabyte per second down and up. And that's just for the basic, this is what it takes to work. You're probably going to want 3 or 4, even 5 to do HD and make sure that that connection streams very well back and forth. So make sure if video conferencing is a huge part of your work, it's a huge part of your day-to-day, that you have enough speed to accommodate that.
Aye, sir. And maybe a wee bit more. I'll sit on the warp engines myself and nurse them.
Okay, so let's talk about the speeds and services in town in South Dakota. So we're talking Rapid City, Sioux Falls, even some of the bigger, smaller towns, such as Aberdeen, Watertown, Mitchell, and other similar towns in South Dakota. The first option is CenturyLink. Now, CenturyLink used to be the Quest phone line. They've been doing a pretty good job of offering DSL services and even some fiber optic through those phone lines that are already installed in the homes. Another option, especially in some of the smaller towns of the Black Hills, such as Custer and Hermosa, is Golden West Technology. They have your internet services as well as your bundles of TV, phone, internet, and all sorts of different variations in between. But the two main broadband internet services in South Dakota with the higher speeds are Midcode Communications and Vast. Both these services do the same thing as Golden West. They offer internet plus TV, phone, cable bundles, everything that you need all in one. Let's jump on these websites real quick, take a look at what all the different services are for each one of these options. So here's CenturyLink. You can see here there's plans started at 50 bucks a month, and they've got an unlimited internet supply for you. The speeds go from 10 to 940. Now all these websites are going to have a place for you to enter your address or the address of the home you might think about buying, and it'll pop up what services are available for you at that place. Here's Golden West Technologies website. You can see where I plugged in Custer just to kind of give us a good idea. Scroll down here and it looks like we have up to 250 megabytes per second for up to 100 bucks a month. Now let's get into the big dogs. Midcode's account here shows that you can get anywhere from 1 gig all the way down to 50. That says advertising not only a 1 gig, but also a 2 gig and 5 gig. I doubt very much that that's in the Rapid City area, but maybe at some point we might have that kind of speeds in our area. We personally have Midco for our personal residence and even here our business. We've got the 100 megabyte service, and we don't seem to have any problem streaming any of the channels. My son is usually downstairs playing his games as well. Plus everybody has at least 1 or 2 devices, and we've never really had a problem with the signal at home or at the office, unless there's a power outage or something is going on in that scenario.
I find nothing interesting in the fact that we're about to blow up.
No, but the method is fascinating.
All right, now it's time to talk about internet services outside of town. Now, I've had many of you call and say, I just want to live in the Black Hills somewhere all by myself and have a broadband internet connection. Not how it works. The cable services aren't going to be just digging through the granite of the Black Hills to drag that broadband line anywhere. They're going to want to make sure that the expense of getting that line to your subdivision, to your home, is going to be justified in the long run by the money that they're going to receive. So a lot of times, even the subdivisions outside of Rapid City don't quite have Midco or fast internet yet because they're so far away and there isn't enough people to justify dragging that line out there. A really great way to illustrate this is take a look at this map from broadbandnow.com. It illustrates the maximum speed in South Dakota. So let's check this out. So you see here these green areas, they show anywhere between 3 megabits per second up to 1,000. Everywhere in the red, 2500s, just not as much in the rural areas of Rapid City and even over here in the Black Hills. Lots of 25s, there's some hundreds in there. So you can tell pretty obviously if you want to have great internet broadband service, you need to be in one of these green areas here in the towns, or for some reason, right in the middle of South Dakota. When it comes to western South Dakota, Rapid City, up into Sturgis, and Spearfish are really your main towns for high-speed broadband internet. So if you are in the hills, some of your options there are the Golden West Technologies. They've got some services that reach a little bit further into the rural areas. The other option is CenturyLink, because they're going to have your phone lines there anyway. Chances are that they'll have some kind of service to your property. The third option is satellite. Let's take a look at that real quick. The most common satellite internet provider is Hughes.net. Now, it's okay internet, but it's not great. Let's take a look at their website and see what they say. So you see here their fast speeds come with 25 megabits per second download and 3 up. That's it. That's their top. And notice this little 2 right here? That pretty much says, you know, depending on your service and the weather and what's going on here, what's going on there, it might be less or it might be more than that. It's pretty much what they're saying. So if you're on a mountaintop somewhere, satellite internet might be perfect for you. As long as you don't want to watch a lot of 4K TV, you want to do a lot of gaming, or spend all day on video conferencing with clouds and weather and stuff moving in and sometimes interrupting that signal. My wife and I spent a weekend at a cabin up in Terry Peak. That's in the hills in the Lead Deadwood area. While we were there, we could stream Netflix in standard definition. That's it, no HD. We tried to upload some of the other services that we had, and they wouldn't even load. Even scrolling social media was kind of a chore and patience, waiting for things to pop up. Which was good, we were there to enjoy the Black Hills anyway. But I was getting frustrated with the lack of internet service, the speed of the service on satellite internet.
I can't give you work now much longer, Mr. Spock. These engines are beginning to show signs of stress.
So the next obvious question is, well, how about cell signal? I'll just get one of those MiFi or whatever, and I'll grab the internet service from my cellular signal. So let's look at that real quick. We've got 3 cellular providers out here: AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Now, T-Mobile is kind of a new player in the game. They have only been here for a few years, and I know that they're piggybacking a little bit on some of the AT&T towers. And when they first got here, their prices were really cheap, and we looked into it, but I just wasn't comfortable enough with their lack of service, especially in the Black Hills at that time, to jump on that ship. Okay, let's take a look at the coverage maps from these 3 services. So AT&T is showcasing that they've got a lot of 5G throughout everywhere of South Dakota, with some 4G as well. So we scroll into the Black Hills area here. If we scroll in, we'll see there's certainly areas over here that have no coverage. Same thing with Verizon. Verizon shows 4G everywhere, with the exception of some spots around here that we'll get into in a second. And of course some 5Gs in here and some weird spots right here. Go figure that out. As we get closer to the Black Hills, you'll see this area here is the Black Hills. You'll see there is no coverage in this area. Same thing with T-Mobile. Of course, it stretches across the state. A lot of these little lines here is a partner, and that's what I'm talking about, snatching up with AT&T, I believe. And you can see a lot of white here over in this area. Now, in my experience, these maps showcase what is possible, what could be there. Doesn't necessarily mean that there is service. Plenty of times driving across the state of South Dakota, middle of the prairie, you have no service. Even though the maps say you do. There are places outside of town, just a few miles, just off Nemo Road here, just outside our office. You go down the canyon, you get nothing. There's a house on top of the hill, has no cell service up there. So there are places throughout that have little dead zones, spots that you can't get service. We have Verizon phones, and for the most part, I haven't had too many problems in the hills. But of course, that's staying near the towns or on the major routes. I know people that did a lot of work in the Black Hills, throughout the Black Hills, actually had 2 phones. One for AT&T, one for Verizon. If one didn't have service, the other did. And just because you've got 4G service in this area doesn't mean that you'll have a lot of signal strength either. Sometimes you're driving on the road, you've got 1 or 2 bars. That's not giving you enough for a whole lot of internet. So if an area doesn't have internet services, chances are your cellular service is not going to be that much better to give you the boost, the signal that you need. Now you can always install signal boosters and repeaters and all those other things to make that happen. But if you're in the Black Hills, if you're in rural South Dakota, chances are your signal is not going to be as strong as in the populated areas. Yes, Virginia, we do have internet in South Dakota, but if a strong broadband connection is a requirement for you and your family, the closer you are to the city, the better off you'll be. I'll put the links to all the websites we looked at in the description below. When you're checking out areas and deciding what area around the Black Hills or South Dakota that you want to live, great tools to check that out, see where things are at in that area. Thanks everybody for watching. I'd really appreciate a like on this video, and even hit that subscribe button every once in a while. I'd appreciate that. Have an amazing day, everybody. Remember, love where you live.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.